Good evening. This is the August 15, 2024 meeting of the Finance Administration Committee of Borough Council. Our chair, Jim Spear, is in Switzerland and will not be attending today. Vice Chair Mike Salenson, and with me is our third member, Mike Gaudini. So I guess we will start with the approval of the Finance Administration minutes for July 18th.
Move to approve the F&A minutes for July 18th, 2024.
I second. All in favor? I'm taking notes too. Okay. Mr. West, would you like to give us the Borough Treasurer?
Thank you. Yep. So included in tonight's meeting packet was a review of the budget versus actual. I'd like to draw the committee's attention to a couple of things that I've noticed after the packet went out. Specifically, if you look at item 410-172, and this is on page 3 of the profit and loss budget versus actual, you'll see a negative balance for patrol officers' holiday overtime, negative $3,907.46 to be exact. That's not right.
Okay.
We are still, which is a great connection to the next update. We're still working our way through the 2023, that should be 2023, not 2024 annual audit, DCED audit. That was an accrual from 2023 that looks like we did an accounting exercise and posted it to the wrong year. So that shouldn't be there. So the next ones will be, it should be 0. And you'll also see another one in the sewer fund for pollution insurance. There's a negative $24,811 in the sewer fund. That also shouldn't be there, and it's also then showing up in the solid waste fund. That's actually a 2023 expense and not a 2024 expense. We have not had expense any money for pollution liability insurance for 2024 because this is the first year that the borough hasn't had to pay for pollution liability insurance due to our solid waste contract. All previous contracts had the hauler using the Lower Merion transfer station as part of the contract. Because of that, Lower Merion Township required the borough to take out a pollution liability insurance policy. This is the first year that we are not using the Lower Merion transfer station. Mascara uses their own transfer stations, so there's no need for us to spend the money on pollution liability insurance. So while it was budgeted for just over $26,000 in the 2024 budget, that'll actually be a 0 by the end of the year. So you'll see those things work out as we get closer to completing the audit. They'll get reversed and they'll come back out of 2024. So I just wanted to bring those issues to light in case you saw them and it didn't look right.
So it doesn't, not that it matters, but like when was it Republic before?
It was, yep.
So Republic didn't have, I guess they only use that transfer station because of our contract with them?
So what would happen would be, good question. So they would use the Lower Merion transfer station because it was closer than their transfer station. We would pay the bill, and then Republic would give us a credit for those costs. So it was included in, right, the total cost was included in the contract, but because we were touching Lower Merion transfer station, we had to also assume this pollution liability insurance since it was under a borough contract.
Gotcha.
I do have a copy of Mascara's pollution liability insurance coverage, and for which they also named Narberth Borough as an additional insurer. And I don't know if there were any other questions that the committee had on the profit and loss, or the budget versus actual report.
The only thing that I noticed was the earned income tax. We're already at 73%, and I'm assuming that's really based on revenues brought in through June?
Yeah, so this is through July, the end of July.
Oh, it is end of July. Okay,
and so,
I know that there's a little lag in the postings.
Yep. And so EIT comes in throughout the year. It gets sprinkled in.
Yeah.
I have not been tracking it yet, so I don't know what months are our biggest months yet. It's still relatively new for us.
Yep.
So that's something that's on my radar, hopefully in 2025, to start tracking the EIT to see which months are, bringing more than others. Real estate taxes, conversely, we get most of them in a 2 to 3 month window in the spring. So we're tracking pretty well there. We're just under $11,000 for real estate taxes, so that's looking good.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay, nothing else? Okay.
Can I talk about the next two things together?
Yeah,
So
sure.
since they're both audit related.
Yeah.
First one is the ongoing 2023 annual DCED audit of all of our financial accounts. That is still ongoing. We are getting closer and closer. It is continuing to be a challenge for the office because both me and our bookkeeper were not here for most of 2023. And so a lot of the questions that come up about, hey, why was this in this account? Nobody in the office can offer really good answers. So that's been the main reason for the extended delay in getting the audit completed. We are getting closer and closer, as I said. I'm hoping within a month we'll get almost finalized or finalized, at which point I'll have the auditor come in and present to this committee as well as Borough Council the audit findings, or hopefully no findings.
Yeah, that's no exceptions, right?
Yes, yeah.
That's what I like to hear, no exceptions.
Yeah.
Literally that phrase.
The 2024 state liquid fuels audit was completed last week. This is in every other year, the state comes in to audit our liquid fuels monies. We get, based upon the number of lane miles that we have and the population, there's a calculation that is distributed amongst all municipalities for funds that get paid out of the liquid fuels fund, state fund. Every 2 years, an auditor performs an audit for all of those liquid fuels funds. Those funds have to be segregated. They have to stay inside of their own interest-bearing account. They cannot be touched by any other general fund or any other fund expenses or revenues. So the auditor comes in and looks at approved expenses and making sure that both of your deposits within that 2-year window were deposited in the right account. We were fortunate that we didn't have many expenses through the liquid fuels fund. And it's very specific things that you can use liquid fuels money for. It has to be related directly to a road. What I like to do, and what you'll see in 2024 with the road paving program, I like to use liquid fuels monies for annual road paving. The fewer things that you can use, that you pay for out of the liquid fuels funds, just results in less administrative headache for the audit. It's fewer things to keep track of, fewer documentation to have for the auditor. If you have one project, road paving, it's easier to collect that information, package it, hand it to the auditor. One of the things that will be a finding, and it's a minor, not a big deal. We received money in 2023 through the Liquid Fuels Fund. It was not deposited in the Liquid Fuels Fund account before the end of the year. It was a technicality.
You mentioned that.
It was a technicality. Since it was already in an interest-bearing account, the auditor was just like, it's not that big of a deal. It will be a finding on your audit, but the money is there, and we did move it. I think it was by January 6th is when it moved into that account. It was previously the direct deposits that we received from the state had been set up to be deposited in our capital fund, which is a difficult fund because we don't actively monitor that as much as we do as our general fund. So if we were to if that money would have been deposited in the general fund, it would have been easier for us to say, oh, we got that deposit, we need to get this thing into the highway aid fund. So we have made that change in the past 6 months that all direct deposits from the state, future direct deposits, will be hitting our general fund. Speaking, this is not on, it is, but if you don't mind, I'm just gonna
Let's get down to it.
discussion item B, 80 Windsor Avenue, just some good talk about direct deposit. It sparked a memory. We got the grant reimbursement for the roof reinforcement project already, $250,000 of grant money. So we have received that, and that project is closed out from the state level. That grant has been closed out.
At bottom line, how much did the borough end up covering?
Good question. I don't have the exact numbers. I was starting to work on that, and I'm still waiting. There's a couple more outlying bills that I'm waiting for. You're going to see one tonight. The storage containers. It's just under half. So it was just about a $500,000 project, and the borough's on the hook for half of that. So we received $250,000 towards that.
Remind me how much we get annually from the liquid fuels tax?
It's about, is it 115,000? And that does this every year. It's about 110 to 120,000 is a good estimate every year.
And like, I guess because I doubt that, whatever contracts are coming at exactly that amount, I guess what happens with the...
You can keep it.
Okay, so it's not like it doesn't...
You don't have to spend that money in the same year. It's not like the pension, Act 205, where you have to take that money and you have to put it towards pension in that year, or the Fire Relief Association, we get money, you have to pass that through to the Fire Relief Association. We can keep that liquid fuels fund year over year. You do not have to spend it. And so we have a really nice liquid fuels fund.
Yeah, do we have a cushion in there?
We do. And so you're going to see Jeff Eldon is working on the paving plan that will show you that we're going to hopefully continue to just use liquid fuels funds to continue to pave the roads and improve ADA intersections in the future.
Okay, cool.
We have about 400 and some change right now in our liquid fuels account.
And how much was the Haverford?
100 and, I don't know. I'm not even going to guess. I have not committed it to memory.
It's okay.
Apologies.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a little extra for when that giant sinkhole opens up, God forbid, right?
Why do you have to go and say that?
Catastrophic thinker.
But hey, that is a great segue or a tease for discussion item F, which we'll talk about later.
All right. So we continue in order. We do have some action items that we have to talk about. So schedule of bills. Anything exciting that we need to know? I noticed any.
Pretty routine.
Yep. Okay. Okay, Michael, do you want to move?
I'll move to recommend scheduled bills for the general sewer, solid waste, capital highway, and green funds totaling $575,819.82.
And I will second that. Cool. There we go. Okay. Now your favorite thing on the agenda.
Everything on this agenda.
Go ahead.
Okay. So if you remember, 3 months ago, I asked council, and council authorized a test case for the administrative office to be only open between the hours of 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Our working hours continue to be 8 to 4, closed to public business for an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening. And we have not received any negative feedback. I have not heard any negative feedback from any council members that you've received from the residents. It has really, I'm not speaking for my staff, it has been really effective to start in the morning, to have that quiet time to kind of get your mind in order, and it enables us to have staff meetings in that hour that we won't be interrupted with. We kept trying to have staff meetings at 8 and people would be walking in. It was always interrupted. And then at the end of the day, to just kind of take a breath, organize everything that had happened during that day, and set you up for that next day as well. And so I'm really happy with the results. And there's a couple of times that someone will be knocking on the door at 8:58 or 8:57. Of course, we're going to open the door. And same thing at at 3:05. Someone, oh my goodness, no, Yeah, of course, right? It's not a hard, whoop, that's it, draw the shades, turn off the lights, we're gone. It's worked really well.
Good.
And I'm asking that this committee recommend to council tonight to permanently adjust the admin office hours for public business only between the hours of 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
And people can always, if they can't make those hours, they can make an appointment,
Yes.
right, to go
Yep.
out of those hours.
Yep.
Yep, okay. And Mike, I think, given that there's only two of us,
I'll recommend to permanently adjust the admin office hours for public business to 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
and I will second that.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's just a little thing, and it was organic. It came from staff. And
I get it, I never schedule client meetings before 10 o'clock. It's like, I gotta get in the office, see what's, any surprise emails have come in since I left the day before, that sort of thing.
Right.
Just kind of ease into it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Totally good. Okay. Discussion items. You're up.
Discussion item 4A. I would like to introduce this committee to the newest edition of the Narberth Borough admin team, our new records clerk and office assistant, Kelsey Fisher. Kelsey.
Kelsey. And hopefully you're feeling better,
Yes.
fully recovered.
A lot better.
Great. I'm leaving for vacation tomorrow, so you can stay with that. Just from my perspective, Kelsey, when I come back, I would like to meet with you because I've taken charge of being the communications person for council. So I'd love to sit down and have you data dump all over me to tell me all these. I have some ideas on things that I'd like to, sort of think about changing, but obviously you're the expert, so when I come back, I'd love to have coffee and figure it out.
Absolutely, sounds good.
Yeah, we had been talking about that already this week, and,
Yeah.
and told her that you were the one that was
Yeah.
going to be leading that charge, and
For
looking
better
forward
or
to it. Yeah.
Okay. 80 Windsor Avenue update, anything besides what you just told us?
The
Great.
project is complete.
Great.
There is one minor wrinkle in that we now discovered that the fire sprinkler system might need to be adjusted in the two wings because of the support braces. They might not be covering where they need to be covered. So we might need to either drop them or move them horizontally. So we're working on that right now.
Because the beams are in the way
The
of
beams
where
are
they
in the
would
way.
spray.
They're too
Oh.
close to,
Okay.
I think about 6 sprinkler heads. I think it was about 6. So we're working on getting some quotes right now. And I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to absorb those costs and still be under budget for the project.
All right, great. Okay, rules and procedures of council. I guess no surprise because it's on the agenda for later tonight, but Michael's going to do a presentation
Yeah.
to the rest of council on our proposed changes. So hopefully that will give them.
There was one outstanding item that had been flagged, which was, and I had forgotten about this, so I forgot to, but I remembered, I think it was maybe Matt or Jim flagged it recently, and I thought, okay, well, we'll bring it up with the committee first, which was, the old rules had said a committee or a council member can bring an item, sponsor an ordinance.
Yeah, the ordinance sponsoring thing,
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we want to make it 2 if it doesn't.
I had thought, make it 2, I mean.
Yep.
Clearly, if it has enough support for the entire council, we'll have 2, but you avoid this situation where if you have one rogue person, you can just try to continually bring things.
And or, just, if they're doing it just to embarrass people, right?
So I wanted to flag that, and that wasn't meant, I think that wasn't meant to stop staff from putting items on the agenda. I think that was more so for if council members are bringing
I see.
items forward and say, hey, can we put this on the agenda?
I see, okay. Yeah. I was hoping that it wasn't the administrative, we need a resolution for this thing, because we haven't had to.
That would be so way too complicated.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
more sense.
The only
Okay.
thing that I thought about when I saw that was, so let's say I want to put it on the agenda, or I want to sponsor a resolution, I guess I'm talking to everybody individually. We have to be careful about that person not otherwise creating a situation where you've got 2 or 3 people in the room and they're trying to get a say, right? Because now you've got a open records law situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we just have to make people aware of that. If you're the one and you want a second, keep in mind that you have to think about how you're going to get that second.
Yeah.
I guess kind of like the SEPTA resolution tonight,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
That's a good example, thank you.
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
All right. Okay. Boards and commissions review. I finally got a response from the EAC chair. I think I forwarded it to you, didn't I? Am I wrong about
Maybe
that?
you might have.
Maybe like 2 weeks
I
ago.
thought I was on top of my emails, but I'm just not good remember. Oh no, yes, I think you did.
So the only question there is, and this is actually goes back to the sort of communications pieces. You know, we often have somewhere in the newsletter like, oh, we have all these openings in the board, etc. I think what I'd like to do is, now that we're identifying where there is a need, so EAC came back and said, yeah, we actually really need another person, and it would be really good if they had this expertise. So it's a good example of, rather than just sort of putting out there we have an opening, to actually put out, there's an opening specifically on this committee, we're looking for somebody with this particular expertise, because that might get more likely a response than just saying, hey, you want to join the Board or Commission? So that's just something that we will talk about. The application form we have not looked at yet in detail to see if we want to change that to make it a little bit onerous. So I think that's our next step after the rules and procedures kind of gets wrapped up. Communications plan, that's sort of what I'm taking laboring forward on.
I thought it would be good to put it on the agenda just to start the conversation.
Yep. So I think, it's a multi-pronged approach that I like to take, both online, and I actually think that the physical stuff we're putting out around town is actually, I think, effective. One thing, I don't know if we have the ability to track this, like whether people are actually putting up the QR codes. I suspect that nobody's actually seen with their phone, scanning the QR code to read about stuff. But I don't know if we have the ability to make that determination. I doubt it, but I don't know. Anyway, it just takes up some space on, when I was noticing the various things around town. Take up space on the poster, it makes it a little more crowded, I guess. But no, I'm glad that this is on because I have already had some preliminary discussions with you. I'm looking forward to having additional discussions with Kelsey. I think social media is especially an issue in terms of getting information out there in a better way, in a way that's legally. As a lawyer, I know that there are certain things we have to be careful of when we're communicating, depending on whether we're wearing our personal hat or our council person hat. So we've got to set up some rules there for people. So, cash fund and reserve policy.
This is something that I wanted to introduce to this committee this evening. I don't have the details to provide, nothing for you to look at this evening. It's something that I would like to work with this committee to, as I'm in the 2025 budget process right now, looking at our cash fund and our operating fund and realizing we don't have a reserve fund. We should have a reserve fund. And so we have healthy cash fund balances. There's not raising an alarm. Our cash fund balances have been healthy, continue to be healthy we don't have a rainy day fund. And I would like to develop a policy that establishes what our reserve will be. And there's some guidance that I'll provide to you all. We are limited through Pennsylvania Borough Code, and the GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association, also provides guidance. I'll be providing that to this committee. I'm looking for a reserve fund policy as well as a cash fund policy. That way it enables me to better manage our finances. If council says, look, we want our minimum fund balance in our operating fund to be this amount. If it goes above that amount, it is to then be transferred into the reserve fund. The reserve fund should never exceed this amount of money. If it does, the excess gets transferred back into the reserve fund, or into the operating fund. Having to set those parameters will enable me to better manage the borough's money. Because right now, we are sitting, we're flush with cash right now. Right now is the healthy period. From this point onward, it's just going to continue to go down and dwindle until spring of next year. If we could take some of that balance, transfer it to a high interest savings account, not even investing it, no, we would generate a significant amount of revenue that could then be banked into our reserve fund. I am not comfortable making those decisions without council adopting a policy for those things. And that would give us guidance to do those things and then report to this committee and council where we're tracking month to month. So moving money during the year for 6 months, parking much of it in a high interest account, and then continuing to transfer it back over into the operating account throughout the year as the funds dwindle. So that's what I'm looking to develop. Hopefully I'll have more to discuss with this committee next month.
Great. Speaking of funds, so in the past we haven't had any, I guess, I know that the capital improvements fund is a child general fund. But have we had any policy in past budgets of setting aside a certain amount to kind of bump over, or? No
policies. That's just been a conversation as part of the budget making process. I'm not sure a policy would be appropriate for that, because you want that flexibility every year over year for council to say, hey, look, times are tight this year.
Yeah. Maybe that's what the capital improvements plan is for, basically.
Correct. Yeah. And I was just talking about the general fund. That's the big cash account, the general fund.
Right.
But I would also, once we get through the cash fund and reserve policy for the general fund, I'd like to then do one for each fund, capital F. Sewer fund, solid waste fund, capital fund. Because we don't have a good cash fund policy for the capital fund also. And capital fund is restricted funds because they're meant for capital projects.
Right.
Unrestricted versus restricted. So, looking forward to having this conversation with you all. Okay. And it will benefit the borough financially, and it will have added positive effects in future bond borrowing or bond rating. The more reserve you have, the better position you will be. Right now, we do not have a rainy day fund. So when the sinkhole opens, we're not going to be in necessarily a good place.
Okay. Number 5, review ongoing projects. I don't really know that we have anything to discuss because our big ongoing project is the rules of council. So we'll defer that to the general meeting. Public comments? Is anybody online? No. Look at that. So we're up to adjourn. You want to move? I will second, and we are adjourned at 6:29.